In this episode of the Path to Success podcast, I sit down with successful insurance agency owner Hanin Al Qoreishy. Hanin is a self-made and successful business owner who proves that you don't have to choose between killer ambition or femininity. As an Iraqi immigrant, Hanin was determined to use adversity that she faced as an opportunity to make herself into someone successful. She's built a lucrative career in automotive finance before paving her own path to success in insurance. Join us as we dive deep into some of the following topics: early life in Iraq, letting go of pain to create space for opportunity, the loneliness of early entrepreneurship, definitions of success, the power of marketing, gender roles when navigating relationships, and much more. If you're looking for inspiring stories of harnessing adversity as a superpower, or simply considering a career pivot from a salaried role to entrepreneurship, don't miss this opportunity to learn more about Hanin's path to success. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the Path to Success podcast. Today, I have an amazing young entrepreneur in my podcast studio whom I met maybe 2 weeks ago, and then we've already maybe seen each other at like 2 or 3 different parties. Hanin Al Qoreishy, welcome to the Path to Success podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Excellent.
For having me.
Absolutely. Well, you look amazing.
Thank you.
And I would love to think that you got all dressed up just for my podcast.
100%.
But I've seen you many times outside of the office, and I know this is just a standard Wednesday for you.
It wasn't a full makeup though.
Oh, there we go.
So I did the full makeup just for you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I actually have no makeup on. And it's funny because my IT director, Larry, said, "Hey, Jeremy, if we're going to get serious about this, you need to start wearing some makeup, bro."
I agree with Larry. I'm going to have to agree with Larry.
Understood.
You'll see the difference. You'll see the difference.
I just don't want to catfish anybody whenever they meet me in real life.
They'll be fine.
Okay, fantastic.
We live in a world where everybody's catfish.
Oh,
so
not
you
me.
just get used to it.
That's funny. Well, good. Well, so in 60 seconds or less, just give our listeners a little bit of insight. Who is Hanin? What do you do? Where are you from? Just give us the elevator pitch.
Okay. I am originally from Iraq. I've been in the United States since I was 9 and started working since I was 14. I was actually a home nurse at the time, trying to support my parents. Because when you come from a different country, you start from zero. You don't really understand the language. You don't understand the culture. I had the opportunity of coming in early on or at a young age. That way, it gave me a lot more leverage as far as learning the language fast and things of that sort. So I was the supporter for the family at a very young age. And that really opened my mind to a lot of opportunities that led me to where I'm at today. Part of it was doing insurance at the age of 18, then slowly, gradually transferring into the auto industry and doing finance in the auto industry. And somehow, 6 years later, I started Legacy.
And so what is Legacy Insurance Advisors?
Legacy, we are a brokerage. So what we do, we're contracted with 200 plus different carriers that we do business with, so we're appointed with them. How that makes us different is we're not a captive agent. A captive agent would be like somebody with just Allstate.
Yeah, an Allstate, a State Farm, a Nationwide. Okay.
So we actually have all these carriers. We
Excellent.
have Allstate, we have Liberty Mutual, we have Safeco, which is also Liberty Mutual, Progressive, Farmers, all these carriers plus 100 other carriers that we do business with, and other brokerages as well. We were kind of discussing in the elevator about a brokerage that you do business with. So it gives us a lot more leverage to shop around rates and do the legwork for our clients instead of having them go to different agents or whether independent or captive agents and do the shopping themselves, and we do the legwork for them.
So how does somebody, and you didn't disclose your age, so I'm not going to ask it, but our mutual friend that introduced us told me your age, and I'll tell you, you don't look a day over it, but you act far more mature. So how does somebody in their mid-20s have the experience, the fortitude, the confidence to go out and start their own business maybe at 25 years old?
Struggle.
Struggle.
It teaches you a lot of things.
Okay.
I think everybody in life needs to experience some sort of struggle. It doesn't have to be extreme, but it teaches you responsibility. It teaches you, it exposes you to certain things that your mind wouldn't normally be exposed to, because we're taught certain things in a certain order, and we have to be culturally bound to these things. So I feel like when you experience things that are outside of your comfort zone, and you really struggle with them and try to figure out a way through it and to get through it in life, can put you in the position that I'm in today. And sometimes it can backfire and puts you backwards. And in those moments, you just have to look at it and say, what am I going to do about this? Am I going to let it beat me, or am I going to beat it?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And we'll talk about maybe the times that you've struggled here in a second. But it's funny that you say that, because I can 100% relate to it. In my struggle, obviously, I've got childhood trauma of like being abandoned by my dad and a mom who didn't love me enough, right? But that's why I like the likes on Instagram now, is because I wasn't validated enough as a child. But anyways, going through a divorce in 2019, whenever I was, in the throes of like building my business and creating enterprise wealth for myself and my family, being in a position where I saw a 7-figure number leave the bank account in order to go to her new bank account, right? That created a tremendous amount of like fear and anxiety for me. But then whenever I woke up the next day and I realized like, wow, like I've got an amazing business. I've got friends that support me. I've still got a healthy relationship with my children and my ex-wife. Going through that struggle and that fear and anxiety and seeing that it actually made me stronger on the other side gave me the confidence to write other big checks, whether it be investing in crypto or real estate or private equity funds or in, investing in new commercial offices, right? And so it's funny that, you typically don't think of a struggle, right, as a divorce, because I think that divorce can be very liberating, right?
Absolutely,
But there's a tremendous amount of emotion that goes into that
yeah.
separation. So thank you for sharing that. You'd mentioned something that is confusing to me, and maybe you can provide some clarity. You said, I moved here whenever I was 9 years old, and that forced me to be independent. That forced me to want to be a provider for my family. I mean, at 9, right? You started working at 14. How was being an immigrant, and I don't know if a refugee immigrant or what, but like, how has that been a competitive advantage of yours in life?
A lot of people look at it as not an advantage, but I definitely do. I think being from a third world country, or honestly, I feel like anywhere in the Middle East, a 9-year-old there is definitely equivalent to a 25-year-old here.
Wow.
Just because you're exposed to a lot more trauma at a very young age. So having that background, I've managed to see opportunity, because when you live where I lived, my family was very, very well put together. They didn't really need anything. We didn't struggle financially. Our life was set. However, there was no safety. So you're always thinking about, are you going to wake up in the morning? And I remember that very clearly, as if it was yesterday. There was a time where my dad's best friend, his house was about 4 houses away from ours. And we used to all go to sleep in fully clothed, just because you never know.
Oh, wow.
You never know if you're going to wake up to a bombing, if your house is bombed on you or anything like that. So 4 houses at 3 in the morning, we hear a bombing. And basically their entire house, they bombed his house, and everybody in the house was dead. And they were warned, but he decided to just stay there, and he told his family, if that's our time, that's our time. My dad, on the other hand, fought for us, and he wanted us to have a better life. So coming to the States and giving us that opportunity was a huge deal for him. But if you notice, I mean, I don't know if I don't know your background in that sense, but any immigrant family can say this. Or the children can say this, whenever they witness their family or their parents transfer from an environment that they grew up in, they were raised in that environment, to an environment they know absolutely nothing about, it puts a huge toll on them, on their marriage, on their life in general, on their personal conflict with who they are or who they thought they were. Because you're exposed to a total different world
Absolutely.
than what you're used to, right? So seeing that transition and seeing how much they struggled, not just personally, but also between them and their marriage, really gave me the drive and the ambition to show them that, hey, what you did was worth it, because your kids are in a better place now. You didn't give us this opportunity, and we decided to just go waste it and do the wrong things and, walk the wrong route in life. And a lot of people would look at my lifestyle and be like, no, that's not the right path.
Silver spoon, she's always had it made, pretty privilege.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I've heard it so many times. I've heard much worse than that, actually. But that wasn't our background. Our background was we had to start from zero.
Yeah.
And that you have to have purpose in life. And I think that gave me the purpose, is wanting to make them proud, wanting to make them feel like the sacrifice they made, because their sacrifice was they sacrificed their families, their friends, their livelihood, coming here just for their children. They also sacrificed their marriage.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to show that, hey, you did something.
So this reminds me of a story. So my ex-wife, her college roommate was an Albanian refugee. Her name is Denisa Peshkatari. They were both chemical and biomedical engineers at Georgia Tech. And Denisa's parents, they all live in Atlanta. And when I got married, I would go visit once a year, right? One of her best friends. Her parents worked at Publix, which is like an H-E-B, right, in Atlanta. And it's really funny because her dad is a physician. He was a renowned physician in Albania, right? Never had to financially struggle, a very influential pillar of his community there. And then here he was, a grocery sacker. Right. Yeah. And so she saw how he was maybe dethroned from his pride and his source of energy. And I think that they reacted in a very different way. It actually developed a closer bond. And I think the reason why was because Denisa was older than just 9 years old. Right. And so she could be a provider for her family financially. Right. Yeah. And so, give me some insight. What was your dad's career whenever he was in Iraq? And did you have that same desire to be a provider for your family? Give me some insight into that.
Actually, at a very young age, I used to live in delusions a lot. So
what do you mean?
I was very delusional. I used to think, because as a woman, you don't really have much to do there. You just, you go to school, which, I was a straight A student. You go to school, go home, and that's it. Because women are very, and I actually appreciated it. The culture is very protective over women. Your reputation is very important. And I think the older I get, the more understanding I become of that concept. But back then I didn't understand it. I didn't really care for it. But what I used to do is I used to always imagine myself. My mom tells me the story all the time, is I used to put my toys, and we had wood doors.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would use my chalk and act like I'm teaching my toys, like they were my student or my employees.
Yeah.
And I would wear my mom's heels, and I would just act as if I was their leader. So at a very, very young age, I used to paint this future in mind where one day I will own a company. Did I know how serious I was about it? Absolutely not. I never thought that it would become true. I just loved the feeling and I loved living it. And I think slowly I attracted it. And when it actually happened, I looked back and I was like, wow, I actually manifested that years ago, But my dad was a French professor at a prestigious university in Baghdad. My mom, she's actually very, very smart, but she decided to just be a housewife. She's really good at math and science. That's like her thing. Yeah. Even now, if you give her a math problem, she'll solve it immediately. Yep. At some point in life, she decided to start a salon. I hate to say it, but she's not really good at it. Terrible at it.
Yeah.
Because she's naturally beautiful. She has blonde hair, blue eyes, perfect skin. So she never had to put makeup on. And I'm like, if you never had to put makeup on, you can't put makeup on people.
Understood.
You know?
Yeah.
So they did that. And during the Saddam era, Saddam had banned any other language to be spoken in Iraq. So my dad had to be laid off. He then somehow got into politics, became a politician. During the overthrow of Saddam, that was a very dangerous position to be in. So people found out, and part of his punishment was kidnapping one of his children. So I have 5 brothers and me. Of course, I'm daddy's girl. So I got kidnapped for about 2 months. So
in Baghdad?
In Iraq, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So we lived actually in the south in a city called Al-Qut, which is like 2 hours south of Baghdad, because it was safer.
Sure.
So we're considered special cases. My dad's general actually sponsored our case. He lives in Katy, Texas. And I was found by the American Army 2 months later. And we immediately were brought to the States. So special cases is a little bit different than refugees. I can't remember the exact.
Almost like witness protection type.
Pretty much,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, we came here, and I remember the second I was aware that we landed in the United States, I had so many hopes and dreams that I just painted in my mind.
Love
and
that.
I started dreaming, and you slowly have to make sure to hold on to these dreams and goals, because you can easily forget it.
Yeah.
You know, the minute you're exposed to a good life, you go from like a very tough life to a very secure and safe life where things are a lot easier here when it comes to opportunities than back home. So having that lifestyle change can direct you in one of 2 directions. You're either going to succeed and use this opportunity to become a better person, or it's going to corrupt you. There's no in between. I have not met anybody in between the 2 lines, you know.
So how were you aware at such a young age, 9 years old, about the freedom and opportunity in the United States? Give me some insight into that.
You're not aware.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you're aware. I think you just have hope, because you're very young, you're clueless. I think ignorance is bliss at some point, or to some extent. So being clueless or hopeful really played a huge part in that, because when I listen to Joe Dispenza a lot. Do you know Joe?
No.
Oh my God, you would love him.
Yeah.
I read his book, Becoming Supernatural, and he talks about how when things fall apart, or when you're going through something tough, or people leave you, jobs, anything that you felt like you needed to hold on to, but you shouldn't, right? Or things that you felt you could have done better at, or divorces, anything in life. The way you look at it is now you have more space, you have a better opportunity to create something better for yourself. And I think that's the way I looked at it at that time is, you know, again, it is a young age, but I think maturity is an experience thing. It's not an age thing. So I matured at a very, very young age. And at 6 years old, I was raising my little brothers because my mom was sick for 3 months. Yeah. So you get taught responsibility, and responsibility can age you. I have gray hair from responsibility, so
yeah. Well, they just look like highlights right now.
I know.
So you're good.
I actually was like, you know what? I'm not gonna dye them because they look like highlights.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, good. Well, thank you for sharing that very honest and vulnerable personal story. I couldn't even imagine one of my children being kidnapped for 2 months, and you know, I'm very grateful, and I'm sure your family is too, that the American Army intervened and were able to get you back.
You know, this is the first time I tell the story publicly.
Okay.
I haven't really, people that are close to me know the story, but I haven't really publicly said it. So I felt like this was a good time to be vulnerable.
Well, thank you. So I'm going to lighten the mood a little bit.
I love it.
So you said that your mom owns a salon, or maybe she did at one point in time. but then she has perfect skin, beautiful hair, beautiful eyes. She wasn't really an expert in makeup. And so I met a young lady like 2020. We became close friends that whole summer during COVID, and like only 2 bars were open, and it was like McIntyre's and Drift. And her name is Andrea, and she has a makeup company.
Right.
And her tagline is, "I've been helping ugly people get laid since 2016.
Honestly, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. You know what?
She hates it whenever I tell other people that. So I'm not going to say the name of her Instagram or the company, but
I feel like you should. I feel like you should. But it's catchy.
She is a pro at makeup. She does it for, big events and things of that nature. And she's one of the funniest people that you'll ever meet. But anyways, so she's a business owner. I'm a business owner. I got an opportunity to walk you through the office right before we came on. But I do want to ask you, when you started the business 2 years ago, right, you'd had this, you got into insurance at 18. I'm assuming you skipped college.
Mm-hmm.
You experienced some early financial success, and then you killed it in auto finance, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people that sell you the warranties that you don't need, right? Yeah.
You do need it.
Okay.
You do need it, but there's a 50% chance.
Yeah.
So you got to play with the math here.
I totally understand. And so you had a tremendous amount of success in that. And then it was hard to probably find vehicles in COVID. So you said, hey, look, I'm going to leave the auto finance and I'm going to go start my own insurance brokerage. And so tell us about maybe what the most challenging part of you starting your own business, because I think there are a lot of listeners that are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs. And then, so the most challenging part, and then what was the most pivotal moment over the past 2 years that you think contributed to your success?
The most challenging part was leaving the auto industry. I was very, very successful, top producer in the nation for every group that I worked at. Mm-hmm. And financially, it's, that industry is very rewarding financially. So you make more than investment bankers make.
My cousin Marissa, at a very young age, she worked for one of those second chance finance places, right? And so it was a little bit shady. Yeah. But she would make $30,000 a month as a finance manager at this little tiny dealership. I couldn't even imagine a big one.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, and honestly, the money there is just crazy. You just look at. I remember my first big check, I looked at it and I was like, yep, I'm going to do this for life.
Excellent. Yeah.
And a lot of people will say this, that are in the auto industry, you get sucked into it. You fall in love. You either love it or hate it. So the ones that are doing really well, every time they leave, they come back. And I've seen it so many times where they leave trying to find that work-life balance.
Yeah, I see it too.
You have no life in the auto industry. You're working until 2 a.m. Sometimes you're working weekends. Sometimes you're coming on Sundays to do your paperwork, make sure your funding is done. So you don't even have time to enjoy what you made, right? And my biggest fear was that I would leave it and go back, that I would fail, or that I would be money hungry and want to go back to that, because you get spoiled. You can't
Absolutely.
Go back. I took 20 steps back. Starting Legacy, not one.
Yeah. Not only were you not making money, you were spending money to start your business, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So my executive VP over my wealth management group here, that business unit does about $7 million in revenue, and the VP, his name is Casey Knight. And Casey was in the car business, sales manager, used car side, whenever he was in his like late teens and early 20s, and he was making $150,000, $200,000 a year. And then he got married and they were expecting their first child. And he was like, I gotta like be there for my child. Right. And so he joined a recruiting firm, recruiting financial advisors at like 24 years old. And I think his base salary at the time was like $40K. Right. Yep. And you go from making mid 6 figures to $40K. Failure was not an option for Casey. Right. Yep. The boss said you have to make 500 outbound cold calls. He made 800. Right. The boss said you need to have 6 leads. He got 10. And that forced him to step outside of his comfort zone in order to be a provider for his family. That's what fueled him. Yeah. And so I guess my question for you is what what's fueling you? Because it sounds like you were killing it, making money, right? All the Botox early 20s girl could ever want.
I do not do Botox.
Neither do I, but I'm just making it up. But I'm saying you did not go without with your income level in the car business. And so why did you start your business? Was it for you? Was it to calm the naysayers? Was it for you to prove to yourself that you could be a CEO and manifest what you were articulating in that bedroom when you were 7 years old? What was the reason why?
You know, my favorite quote is "Diamonds are made under pressure," and I actually left the auto industry when it was booming because during COVID, everything was marked up.
Yep.
Inventory was low, but finance was still making money. Dealerships were banking. I remember when I left, my GM sent me a picture of my replacements check, and he was like, "You left at the wrong time."
Oh.
And they tried to get me back a few times, and I was just, and that's the thing, you have to really be disciplined and stay focused because your desires can pull you back.
Yeah.
But what it was for me is I was getting really comfortable. I am not someone that can live in comfort.
Interesting.
And when I do, I become very complacent. I start to become depressed. I'm not excited to get up in the morning and do something, you know. I used to wake up in the morning at like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Still show up at like 11 to the office. But I would wake up, I'm ready to go.
Sure.
You know, I'm ready to kill the day. I'm in a positive mood. And I noticed my mood shift.
Okay.
It went into, I don't want to go to the office.
You weren't being challenged enough.
I was not.
Yeah.
It was so, you know, you meet different people, you meet different faces, and I'm a problem solver. I love solving problems. So I've encountered enough problems to now be able to do it with my eyes closed and still make money.
Yeah.
So the sign for me was during COVID, because, you know, we had the shutdowns and everything. I had COVID several times. And I would work 10 days and still make the 30 grand a month.
Yeah.
So that to me was a sign that I needed something more challenging.
Yeah.
Because then I become very comfortable. And when I'm comfortable, I'm not really hitting my maximum potential.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, I'm going to change the subject, and I don't necessarily know if this applies to you, but I've got a good friend, single guy, mid-30s, and I think he's very similar to you. Whenever he gets comfortable, he runs, right? It's boring.
Yeah.
He's not being challenged enough. And whenever you find comfort in the chaos, right? And usually that's derived by our childhood, right?
Yep.
I've been to therapy enough times to know that. He attaches to very toxic relationships because this is what's familiar, right? And so I guess I wasn't going to go here.
No, you were. Yes, you were.
But, you know, how has that inhibited your success in the dating life? The fact that that's safe and comfortable is actually a bad thing.
I think I've definitely attracted projects because, again, you know, I do share the abandonment issues with you. And I actually learned that I'm doing hypnosis therapy.
Okay.
And I learned that at the age of 14, because what I did when I was 14, I was a home nurse to this older lady. She was 93. Yeah. And I actually lived at her place. So I basically moved out of my parents' house at the age of 14, which my parents have, you know, I have 5 brothers and me. And I was still to this day, I'm the one that supports them financially, takes care of the whole family. And when the child becomes the parent, you feel that sense of abandonment because you don't have a role model to look up to. You don't have a parent to look up to. You don't have a guide that guides you through life. And that can either make you really traumatized or it makes you a very strong person. And that strength, you can excel in your professional life, but in your romantic life, you'll have to take a step back. So for me, I actually was in a very long-term relationship that lasted almost 4 years. And that to me was the perfect relationship because we had the same personality, the same drive, same ambition, same craziness. Everything was on the same level. We were so manipulative that we couldn't manipulate one another. Yeah. And that just gave us that fire, you know, that passion where you're always you're always working to manipulate the other person, whether it's good or bad. Everybody thinks manipulation is a bad thing. I don't think so. I think sometimes
there's probably a different word to describe what you're describing than manipulation. Influence. I get what you're saying though.
But yeah, we can say that.
So then why did that end then? It sounds like it was a match made.
He had demons.
Oh.
Okay. And it's not his fault and it's not my fault.
Sure.
I think sometimes you go through life and you develop I have my own demons as well.
Mm-hmm.
You develop certain demons that you just become very conflicted with. He wanted everything. He wanted his ex-wife. He wanted me. Because his ex-wife gave him that safety, that security. I'm a flight risk.
Sure.
And that to him was a fear that always was in the back of his mind. So he always had a plan B,
Interesting.
And to me, that wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, you want to be understanding with your partner. You want to help them heal because he was going through a lot. He was going through a divorce when we met. So now he has a child with his ex-wife. So he definitely went back to that route. And I'm happy for him because you want the best for the people you love. And I don't think it was the right match, actually. I think when you're too similar, that's not a healthy relationship to be in because you're always in competition without even realizing it.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it, and I don't think he did either. But we were always fearful of one another. So yeah, to go back to your friend, I could see why he would attract toxic people. I was reading this thing online that talked about how people that are givers always attract the takers in life.
Yeah.
So I could definitely relate to that. Yeah, but that doesn't make me innocent.
You catch the fish with the whatever bait you use. That's the type of fish that you're going to catch, right? Yeah.
But it doesn't make you innocent. I think we could do a lot better at trusting our gut. I failed to trust my gut many times, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, if my gut says no, run.
Yeah.
Like don't try to fix anybody. Don't try to do anything.
Yep.
And part of it is I'm getting really busy with legacy.
Yep.
That I don't have the time to have the patience to fix someone anymore, or to help someone heal from.
But you're still getting out there. You're social. I've seen you at a few events over the past few weeks, right?
Yeah.
You're friends with everyone. You're mega well networked. As a matter of fact, right before you came here, you were like, "Hey, this person says hi," and it's like, "Oh, I didn't even know you were friends with that person," right? And so that's the power of social media: is you can make the connections of who knows who.
Absolutely.
And so you talked about what maybe success looked like at 9 when you landed. Then at 14, then at 18, right? And then when you were growing your finance career, and then now, at your age, has success evolved from what you thought that it was maybe 5 to 7 years ago?
100%.
So how do you define success? And then how do you think it's going to evolve 10 years from now?
I think it's definitely subject to interpretation based on someone's experience, background, and their vision for their future. For me, my favorite yoga instructor always says this at the end of her class, is that success is made of 1,000 stumbles and pivots. It's never a set path or order. And one of my favorite speakers, Jordan Peterson, talks about that a lot, is that success is this is my definition of success, because first we have to define what is success to someone.
Yeah.
And for me, it's an optimal position between chaos and order.
Okay.
And that position is usually right in the middle, right? A lot of people think of it as order. If your life is in order, like you worked and then you had the same amount of time that you put into work, you put into something fun. And that's balance, that's success. That's not what success is for me. Success is your ability to adapt to change. Success is your ability to overcome conflict, to overcome struggle. Success is your ability to fall and get up.
Yeah.
I'm doing this handstand. I'm trying to learn how to do a handstand.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, yesterday I fell so many times that anytime I fall, I'm like, I'm going to get up. And the entire time I'm telling myself to go slow because that's what I should be doing.
Sure.
but I get so excited and I'm like, I'm gonna do it really fast, and then I fall again. So that's what my definition is now. Back then, it used to be the flash, the what people see you as, what your reputation is, things like that. Now I define it as, what have I overcome that not a lot of people have overcome?
So what it sounds to me, right? Because you've got money, power, fame, all these different variations of things that people strive for. And what you're describing to me, and sometimes this word can be used in somewhat of a negative connotation, but I don't think that it is. But the word is pride, right? Proud of yourself, other people that you respect and admire, making them proud. That's probably what success looks
100%. I think that's definitely a part of it. I do believe that the ability to adapt to change is a huge part, because like you said, I'm very social. I'm social with different personalities.
Yeah.
And that's
the people have different personalities, or you have different personalities?
Both. Honestly, both. Because you have to be able to connect with people.
Oh, I'm the definition of that. I mean, people tell me all the time, they're like, I never know what your stories are going to be. Yeah.
Exactly.
The CEO, the socialite, the single guy, well, who knows?
And you're staying humble through it all. And I think that's key to relating to people and connecting with people. It's not seeing yourself as somebody that's higher than anybody else. We're all the same. We're all going through life, and you don't know what someone is going through, so always be kind. And you've always been kind to me ever since I met you. So that's success. Success is when you can still smile.
Yeah.
But no one knows what happened an hour ago. You could have been screaming on your phone, freaking out. But when you show up to the people that are happy and doing their thing, you're engaged, you're present.
Absolutely.
You're happy,
Well, good. Well, I know in my experience, building strong relationships with influential individuals is very much attributed to my own personal success. And so can you share an instance where maybe a professional relationship made a profound impact on your career trajectory?
A professional relationship.
Yeah.
Definitely my business partner, Daryl Dyke. Daryl changed my life.
Okay.
He is not just a business partner, he's my mentor.
Awesome.
He took a chance on me at a very young age. He saw something that a lot of people didn't see, and he didn't work with me. A lot of people in the auto industry knew my credibility. They have the numbers in front of them. My name was known. You say my name, everyone respected it. They knew that I could produce, that I could show something to back up what I'm saying. Daryl Dyke did not know any of this. He took a chance blindly. He just did it based on what he felt, based on just watching me on social media, watching me in personal life. We have mutual friends. So taking that chance on me at the age of 23 was life-changing for me. And he's still teaching me. He's teaching me how to be a business owner.
Yeah.
I came from the corporate world where I was a star, I was an employee, and I had one task. And my task was to maximize profit. And I can do that with my eyes closed in any business. Any business you give me and say, hey, Hanin, this is the business, this is the model, I need you to maximize profit for me. I'll do it with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to run a culture. I don't know how to... I know how to adapt to my clients, customers, friends, personality, but having employees was a struggle for me. I didn't know how to manage people. I didn't know how to let go of my ego. I had a lot of ego. Because when you're a star, everyone is always boosting your ego.
Yep.
So you go from being a star to nothing. Because as a business owner, I know it looks glamorous and all that right now.
Yeah.
But when you start, you're nobody. You're
100%.
absolutely You are alone.
The people that are the closest to you don't even believe in you.
No.
Well, what's going to happen whenever it doesn't work out? Well, you're going to leave that corporate job? You're going to leave that role? Oh gosh, what's going to happen? Right? It's like, you're supposed to be in my corner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've had those people, I actually, during that time, the reason why I actually respect Daryl and love Daryl a lot is I was going through my breakup with someone that I thought I was going to end up with.
Oh, yeah.
And, going through a breakup and starting a business, leaving an industry where you didn't need to do much to do well, and going into something blindly, learning as you go, having that mentor really, really, I don't think I would be where I'm at today without him, honestly.
That's fantastic.
He not only mentored me on how to run a business, but he also understood, he's my best friend, he understood how to support me emotionally. He's my unpaid therapist is what I call him.
There we go. No, you pay him plenty because I know he gets profit distributions from all the deals that you close for sure. So I have a similar story. You talk about starting your nobody, hustle and grind build. I started my first company in 2010 when I was 25 years old and hustled and grinded. It took me 6 years to even hit $1 million in revenue. And it's funny because you fast forward 6 years after that, we're 12 million in revenue, right? And so it's like that's the first million is the hardest to make. And then once you have the processes, the systems, the accountability, the culture, people lining up to come work for you because of your reputation, because of your credibility, because of your brand and your track record that you've created over all this period of time, that's really what helps you take your firm to the next level. So it's exciting to see that you've been investing in your own personal growth as a leader and as a business owner, an entrepreneur, growing into a CEO, because that's really the key to success, right?
Yeah.
In insurance in particular, you could be $1 million producer and make $600,000-$700,000 a year, right? And when I was young, I used to think that was a lot of money. Until I started hanging around people that didn't make $600,000-$700,000 a year. They were making $600,000-$700,000 a month, right? And they're working less hours, right? They have better relationships with their kids, right? You don't need to sacrifice one for the other, right? So I do agree with you and Jordan Peterson in saying that it's in between the chaos,
and the
right?
order,
and the order, because us as entrepreneurs, we need to be challenged. We need to be working towards a goal. And I know myself, it changes maybe every 3 to 4 years. Once you've already climbed that mountain, right? There's no reason to sabotage the mountain that you've pinnacled. Now it's time to climb the next mountain, right?
Exactly.
So awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So what strategies have you utilized in order to develop meaningful connections in your industry, right? Like your referral partners, people that support you, or is it just social media that drives the revenue?
Actually, when I started, 60% of my business was from my social media, my personal page.
Yeah. Similar to one of our first guests on the podcast, Julia Wang, she gets a ton of listings from her social media.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So once I realized how powerful social media is, we actually hired an in-house marketing rep, and they managed our social media account. Then we started sponsoring. We pretty much sponsored every single real estate event in Houston my first year. We've invested a lot in the company the first year. We've invested a lot into marketing. And I was at every single event. I remember one time during the holiday, I went to 5 events in 3 hours. Just showed face, gave my card to people, left.
Got some photos.
Made sure people knew I was there. And then, you have to do it fast, too. It's like speed dating. I've never done speed dating, but, it felt like I did. So
every single guy that shakes your hand and meets you thinks that's a speed date. Trust me, you do it every day.
Yeah. haven't found a lot of success yet.
Aww.
But
well, I think one thing we haven't covered is how tall are you, Hanin?
I'm 5'8".
You're only 5'8", but you wear heels everywhere.
All the time.
So you're 6 feet tall all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, and I think that can come off as intimidating to a lot of men.
Oh, yeah.
To where they're not necessarily shooting their shot.
You know what's funny? I actually was telling that to someone yesterday.
Okay.
People think I get approached a lot. I do not.
Okay.
I don't get hit on a lot. And I think, actually, I know that that's part of it, is people think I'm high maintenance, even though I'm the one that's maintaining myself.
Absolutely.
Or they're like, she's got somebody, or somebody thought I was married. I actually had 3 people.
I could think that.
Ask me if I was married. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right. I mean, that means I'm not being.
Well, you have a ring on your left ring finger here.
I actually used to wear rings just to avoid people asking
Interesting.
me out.
Okay.
So I think it actually did what
you manifested that
I
too.
manifested it. So yeah, I was telling that to somebody yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I don't get hit on as much as you think I would. You know, it's a good thing.
So
I don't want anybody to approach me.
So this isn't a question on the sheet, but if you were interested in a guy, would you shoot your shot?
I wouldn't. I would definitely would not. I do believe in gender roles. I'll give signs. I'll give hints. You know. But that's the thing. I'm a friendly person, so sometimes they think I'm just friendly. I'm not giving a hint.
I understand.
So to me, if you're not smart enough to catch that, you're not smart enough to be with me. So that's good.
Well, interesting. Well, before we came on here, you said that a friend of yours had a crush on me, but I was completely unaware of it.
I know.
And so I guess I have to be the one to shoot my shot, right?
Always.
Always.
The man always shoots the shot.
Understood.
The man always makes the date. You know, this is the thing nowadays. Like this society for some reason. I'm sorry to say this. Don't take this personal. But we've raised a very soft generation.
Absolutely.
That there's a very blurred line between genders and dates. But who should decide where the place is and all that? It's always the man. Yeah.
No, and I've learned that actually very recently, to be quite honest, after being single for 4.5 years. I was married. I lived in Katy actually for 10 years. I've got 3 kids that still live out there in Kellywood with their mom. But it's funny that I'm acts of service. That's the way that I show love. And so, you know, I'll shoot my shot and ask a girl out, but then I'm like, well, what are you in the mood for? Where do you want to go? Is there a restaurant that piques your interest? And I know that comes off as not confident and assertive, but at the end of the day, I want my partner to be happy. Right.
Yeah,
you know, I've been to Zante 14 times, but if you've never been and that's something that's on your little, you know, Apple Notes, right, of a restaurant that you want to check off the list, then I want to be able to provide that experience. And so what it sounds like is I just need to pick a fucking place.
I will tell you why. Okay.
Please.
Because you're giving them a girlfriend treatment before they're even your girlfriend.
Okay.
That's earned. That respect is earned.
Interesting.
So any woman can... Deep down, every woman knows this. When a man says, hey, I'm going to pick you up at this time. We're going to go to this place. Be ready. This is a date.
Yeah.
We love that. It doesn't matter how strong we are.
Okay.
We can own 10 companies, and a man comes up to us and says, hey, it's going to be this time, this place. I'll see you then. Have a good day. And don't text them until that day. I'm serious.
Don't text them that day? Just show up?
No. Don't text them until
Understood.
that day. Yeah, until that day. Like, if you planned it 3-4 days in advance, just stick to your word.
Okay.
Don't change plans. Don't text them an hour before, an hour later, and say, hey, change the plans. An emergency. You know, make sure you actually have that schedule open.
So it's funny because one of my best friends, her name is Ashley. Mm-hmm. She gets asked out quite a bit, right? She's beautiful, blonde girl, former flight attendant. And she'll like double book days. And then whoever stays like consistent and following up, right? Then that's the one that she'll pick to go out with.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
That sounds terrible because then you're constantly letting other people down.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Okay. But I just wonder.
See, I can barely do 1 date a week.
Okay.
Like, I don't go out on dates because a lot of my clients.
So what was that dinner we went to the other night?
That was not
I'm joking.
We did not go for dinner.
I'm joking. That was a joke.
I don't go out on dates because that can be misinterpreted. And people, Houston is so big, but it's so small, you know? So it takes me 10 minutes on just texting someone to know if that's a go or not.
Okay.
Because you meet so many people, you meet so many personalities, and that's something I have, that's a leverage I have because I'm exposed to people all the time.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody that's shy and an introvert and you need to go on dates and meet people,
certainly,
you know, expose yourself to different personalities and see what works and what doesn't. For me, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's a waste of time because I'm always working, you know, I actually hate dating apps because it's a full-time job. You have to swipe and all that. So I don't have any dating apps.
Yep.
I'm just kind of like, Coasting.
There you go. Well, you're building, right? And so you're not, it's not like you're sitting on your couch playing,
No.
FIFA all day. Well, good. So what is the biggest misconception that people have of you, right? You are a very public figure on social media. Obviously, you go to all these events. You'd mentioned, hey, people think that I'm high maintenance. What's a big misconception that people may have of you other than that?
I think the shorter list will be what's not.
Okay.
I think a lot of people, I've heard these so many times. I've heard people say that I'm in a relationship with my business partner. I've heard people say that I'm a sugar baby. I've heard people say so many things that aren't true, but I don't respond because I'm like, if I respond, I'm just validating that whatever they're saying has value. I'm high maintenance. I'm actually a total different person than what my social media portrays me to be.
Okay.
And I do that intentionally. I don't want people to know everything about me.
Really?
Yeah, I think privacy is a very good thing to have. I think it's having that that information is sacred. Having that access to someone, really knowing who they are deep down is a sacred thing. That's something you do with someone you're really close to, someone you trust.
Sure.
And we live in an environment where, like you said, people will double book things. People they don't value time. They don't value. I'm not talking about Ashley. Sorry, Ashley. Sorry, Ashley. I kind of use you as an example
No, I understand.
They don't value things that should be valued, and I think times just have changed.
Sure.
For me, it's I'm just, and I like it because it shocks a lot of people when they meet me. Like, acts of service is one of my love languages. I'm somebody that loves to spoil her man, cooks for him, cater for him. I'm a very feminine. I love being a woman. I'm a very feminine female. So when I'm in a relationship, a lot of people think I'm this alpha female that's bossy, that needs someone to slap around and not have somebody that's strong enough to be with her. But the reality of the situation is I'm very feminine. I love to cater for my man. I'm somebody that will do everything around the house and still go to work. You can still do both. And that's a misconception. I think now I started posting about my cooking because I'm like, I want people to know certain sides of me, but not get too close.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. It's funny because I was in a different interview last week, and the person on the other end of the mic mentioned privacy as well. And it was very surprising to me because they were also blue check, Instagram, super public poster. And, I think that I'm maybe a little bit less private, right? I believe in authenticity and vulnerability and being your true authentic self. And that way, if the people that stay around and develop a relationship with that persona, that they actually like you for you. And then I don't get offended of the people that self-select out. But one of the challenges that it poses is when you share too much intimate details, whether it's people that you encounter or possessions that you have or whatnot. I recently went through a breakup, and somebody that I thought was one of my close friends betrayed me and shared completely twisted the actual facts and true words that I told them and sabotaged my relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And it's unfortunate because I probably could have been a little bit more private, right? And to that extent, I probably would have been able to salvage, right? Something that I was very excited about building a future with, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll put some thought into that.
I actually want to say something. There's a difference. I said this to someone before. There is a difference between privacy and secrecy.
Okay.
You can be private and still be vulnerable, still show sides of you that you feel like it's okay for the world to see. You can still give people a little bit of who you are, who you truly are, and not get too close. Because you never know what people's intentions are. And I actually went through something very similar where somebody completely sabotaged my relationship. And unfortunately, I thought this person was a total different person than and he portrayed himself as a total different person, then it flipped overnight. Overnight, I was the one that took the blame on everything that I didn't do.
Sounds very familiar.
Yep. The world we live in. But before, when things used to happen, I used to react. And I'm like, you know what? Just let it be.
You're so mature. That's not a skill that I developed until I was maybe 36 years old.
I hate it.
You're this old woman in a mid-20s body.
Because just because you don't react, it doesn't mean it's not burning inside.
Understood.
It's still burning inside. You're just not throwing flames at
people,
well,
it's because we've overcome so much adversity and hardship in our lives to where we know, hey, I need
the pattern.
It's just like I need to suck it up, and I need to fucking just keep moving forward, right? Because taking 2-3 steps back is not an option at this phase of life. So thank you for sharing that. So, well, good. Can you share a moment about when embracing authenticity actually led to a positive outcome, right? Whenever you were your true authentic self and it created a better relationship or made you money and helped your business. Give me some insight into that.
I think I could safely say that the only person that I've truly been 100% myself with is my business partner. And the reason being is we've had enough circumstances that we've overcome to build that trust. Trust is earned. It's not something you just give to anybody. So now we trust and he's just as authentic. He's actually more public than I am, and a lot of people think I'm the public face of the company. I'm like, no, it's definitely Daryl, because Daryl knows a lot of people. Everyone knows everything about Daryl.
Sure.
If you meet him, you'll know exactly what he went through yesterday.
That's me. I'm Daryl.
Exactly.
And you're Scott for me.
Scott.
Just an FYI.
I like Scott. But that works for Daryl because that's, if I do the same thing, people will think I'm way too out there.
Sure.
So that's when genders come in play. It's like women need to act a little bit different than men. But he's probably the one that I can truly say I'm myself with. And the reason being is nobody ever makes it to a point where that trust is earned to where you could tell them everything about yourself and them not freaking out or them not painting a certain image in their head and calculating a certain outcome that's way far from reality. So you get scared of telling people things because you're like, what are they going to think? What are they going to feel? You don't know them yet. You have to really and I'm somebody that believes in knowing your audience. If you don't know your audience, you have nothing. You're not going to sell anything. Yep. You're not going to connect with anybody. You got to know your audience. That's the first thing you do.
Yeah.
So until I know my audience, whether it's relationship, it's business, I'm not taking a step.
So one of the challenges in having such an incredible relationship with your business partner, so Scott is the president of our firm. He's been here for 7 years. I trust him. I respect him. I admire him to some extent, right?
Respect is definitely a big thing.
We have the same mission, vision, and values, but we have very different styles, right? I'm an extrovert. He's an extroverted introvert, right? He's a little bit more private. He's a little bit more calculated now. He travels. He posts. People think that he's a very public individual, but he's not. But one of the challenges that poses is I can be my true, vulnerable, authentic self. I talk about my insecurities, my fears. He tolerates my impulsiveness, right? And calms me down and keeps me level-headed. Probably the same role that you have with Daryl. And so whenever I'm in a relationship with a woman, and I say, okay, Scott's functionally the COO of my business. I want her to be the COO of my life. I still want to be the CEO, right? Where are we driving the ship? How fast are we going? Who's on the ship, right? Now you are steering the ship. And that's the way that I would like to submit to my future wife, right? Who will be the head of household to some extent.
She's the engine, you're the driver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think I gave that analogy earlier, right? I'm the fuel, but she's the train, right? Yeah. But with that being said, there's quite often times where it's I blur the lines on the communication style with my COO and my partner, right? Because sometimes I think that clarity and being direct is what that person needs. But in a feminine environment, it's like there's other emotions that come into play, right? I mean, and so it's difficult for me to change my communication style with someone who I still respect and admire, right? And my life coach, he says, well, you know, he's like, you've been looking for the COO, but the COOs, they're fucking busy, man. Like, you kind of want someone with a little bit more freedom and flexibility that's going to attach to your life, because you've got a lot of shit going on, right? Where you want to live, who you want to hang out with, the trips that you want to go on, the galas that you go to, etc. If you're married to a partner in a law firm who's got her own 7-figure career, she's busy,
100%.
right? And so he's like, maybe you don't want the COO. And so then I said, well, do I want the executive assistant? Well, no, the executive assistant's not going to challenge me enough, right? She's not holding me accountable. She's not pushing me. She's just executing on my marching orders, and who has fun with that, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like identifying that chief marketing officer, right? Or the VP of sales, or the chief of staff, somebody that still has that strong emotional intelligence, the strong leadership qualities, that has a little bit of experience under their belt, but they still want to be led by the CEO. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a struggle, because I've been so pampered in my work life by Scott, to where it's like, how the hell am I going to find another Scott that's beautiful and intelligent and all these things, right? And so, do you think that's going to inhibit your ability to find someone amazing because you do have Daryl in your corner?
No, actually,
Okay.
I think it's going to help me find someone. Actually, it's going to do the opposite. I think it's going to help me find someone amazing, because it takes someone that is stronger than me to understand me.
Interesting.
It takes someone that, and that's, like you said, it doesn't matter how strong a woman is. We want to be led. We want to let the man be the man, and we are the woman, and feel that feminine energy. Because when you're a CEO, when you're a business owner, and you're a female, you have to be a leader. You have to have that masculine energy. You have to be direct. You have to have no emotion sometimes. But when you go home, you want to take that suit off and put another suit on, and be that person that can be led, but still, have a healthy balance where you go back and forth, and not just be a yes, because that is boring. But no, I don't think so. I think, actually Daryl and I have a very healthy relationship, because we guide each other on our relationship. Like, sometimes if he has a problem with his relationship, he'll come to me and be like, what do you think of this? And I can give him a woman's perspective.
Absolutely.
And he'll understand that what he's doing is not working. I was going to tell you about a video I saw. Have you seen that video of a nail in a woman's head, and the man was like trying to explain to her, she's telling him she has a headache? I'm going to send it to you. So this video talks about the differences between men and women.
Yeah.
And this woman has a nail in her head, literally. And she's explaining to her partner that she has this really bad headache. And he's like, it's because... And she's like, no, you need to listen to me. You need to hear what I'm saying. I have a really bad... She keeps on going, explaining to him the problem, and he's focused on solving the problem.
Sure.
So men are logical creatures. They're always looking for solutions. They're looking for a logical way to do things.
Oh, you're hungry? Let's go get food.
So when a woman is complaining, all she wants is for you to listen. She doesn't want a solution.
Sure.
She just wants that emotional support, because we are emotional creatures. So the whole time, all she wanted him to do is sit down and listen to her talk. And the entire time, he's trying to pull the nail out of her head and be like, this was the problem, right? So it tells you the difference between men and women, is that sometimes what you think we want is the opposite of what we actually want.
Yeah.
You think we want someone that would be like, hey, I'm considerate. I want to know where you've been, where you haven't been. That way I can take you to the rest. That's not what we want.
Yeah.
We want someone that's like, we're going here. Let's go. Because that shows you that man can lead you. Now, down the line, you can't always do that. Down the line, when that person has earned that respect from you, then yeah, you can show that side of you. But that's the part where, for me at least, like, I'm not gonna cook for you unless I'm like head over heels over you.
Well, good. Well, tell me about a time in business or investing or whatever. Tell me about a time where you had an opportunity, a big opportunity, and you didn't pull the trigger and you actually regret it. What would you have done differently? Yeah, well then let's hear them.
There was one where early on when I started the company, I had an accounting manager that she wanted to be in accounting, okay? But she was a great office manager. Her personality was just perfect for that. She's very organized. And I didn't listen to my gut. I didn't listen to the personality assessments that she took and we provided her. She was not a math person. And I gave her the position that she asked for because she was going to school for accounting. Now, that's a great employee. She was there on time, left on time, always took care of her things. I never had an issue. I trusted her blindly. But because I failed to recognize that she doesn't belong in accounting, she made a huge mistake. And that was the part where that was a very pivotal moment in my career because it taught me that I needed to learn. I'm obsessed with behavioral psychology, but it taught me that I needed to learn more about managing employees and placing them in the right position because her position was not accounting. And because I failed her and I put her in accounting, she made a huge mistake. And her personality was, and I knew that, her personality was if she makes a mistake, she'll beat up herself for it. And that mistake was financially damaging.
How big of a number are we talking?
It was $50,000.
Yeah.
So that we had to eat.
Sure.
Like it was a really big, it was almost her salary actually.
Yeah.
That she didn't feel comfortable enough to come up to me and say, hey, I made a mistake. She just quit. So I lost a really good employee because I not only failed to put her in the right position, I also failed to read the signs, see the patterns.
Yeah, because you were going with what's easy as opposed to having a tough conversation.
Exactly.
Hey, we love you. We love your strengths, right? I don't necessarily think that accounting is your strong suit, but I think that you would be an incredible office manager. If you would have had the confidence to have that conversation with her on the forefront, then we could have had more of a technically competent person in accounting.
I mean, that to me...
But you know what's funny about that story, and I talked about this with KK the other day, is that $50,000 learning experience that you had at such a young age probably saved you from a $500,000 mistake that you could have potentially made in the future. And so it's like all these hurdles that we experience in our career, these landmines need to happen for a reason. Right?
Have you experienced that you become numb to problems at some point?
Oh, I mean, 100%. Yeah. I mean,
Is that a good thing?
So I'm 39. I'm just a little bit farther in my entrepreneurial journey. And that's the reason why you're asking that question, I think. Because it's different problems that you have when you're 10 million versus 2 million, right? And I would say it's a huge challenge because I am desensitized not only to the lows. I've had months where I've lost $500,000. I've had investments where I've lost $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, right? And if you let that pull you into the rut, right, that's going to affect all the other ancillary things that are going on in your life, your relationship, your business, right? Your brand and things of that nature, right? Your friendships. And so I am desensitized to it. And to that same token, I am desensitized to the highs as well, right? Because, in October, we've got a record-breaking month. About 1.9 million is what we're forecasted to close, right? That's a huge month. My president's coming to me saying, hey, do we want to throw a huge party? And I'm like, no, it just makes up for the bad Q1 that we had. But it's like you become desensitized to it. And I think that it is important to like celebrate all the wins because especially as a man who's got a successful business, if I'm dating a 30-year-old, salesperson, right? And she gets a $50,000 bonus. I mean, that's transformational. Yes. The excitement that she has. And it's like you almost have to go through the motions and like manufacturing that you're excited for. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so it is a challenging experience, right?
How do you manage the lows in a relationship when you were desensitized to them in a work environment?
Yeah. So, so to be quite honest, we've got a full-time performance and mindset coach here at the office. Her name is Mahtab Maradi. I don't know if you know Mahtab. But she's here on site every Tuesday and Thursday. And so in my relationship, we actually had regular scheduled sessions with her, right? Where we could just process any complex issues before they became big deals, right? And so, that was a very safe place for my partner to vocalize, well, I got this bonus, because the company had sold to private equity and they only took care of the top 10% of their employees. And I felt like this was huge. And Jeremy didn't even, repost it to social media.
Yeah.
And I know how much he values people that repost, right?
Yeah.
And this is how it made me feel, right? If my partner would have just come to me and been pissed off, right, held it against me, and she didn't even know why it was a big deal to her, I probably would have gotten upset back at her. You know what I'm saying? And so just having a forum where you have a safe place to vocalize fears, insecurities, right? Things of that nature is very, very important in relationships. Nice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I've got a life coach, I've got a therapist, I've got my EO small group. I've got, so I can typically I'm very self-aware. I can identify my emotions and vocalize those. And any partner that doesn't want to talk about their emotions and why I feel a certain way, then they can self-select.
So do you attract people that are not self-aware?
Of course. I mean, I think the big reason why is because that's an area where they see maybe on social media that I excel at. And so they're like, oh, I want to gravitate towards that, right? Mm-hmm. Just like maybe broke girls want to be around guys who have money because that's going to fill a void. But it doesn't create long-term success, right? Because you have to be with an intellectual equal in order for any relationship to be successful, right? I mean, if you're a dumbass, it just means you need to be with a dumbass. It doesn't mean that you can't find love.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to meet your match.
Yeah, you've got to meet your match. Somebody that has the same mission, vision, values, goals, right? You guys are both working hard, but you're working towards the same thing. I think that's where I went wrong in my marriage is I was only 24 years old when I got engaged. We knew that we wanted to be successful, right? But my definition of success was probably very different than my wife's definition of success. Here we were, we both started off same income level. We're marching, we're going, we're growing in our careers, but we're growing in opposite directions. One day you wake up, fast forward 11 years, and she's all over here and I'm all over here. We're waving at each other and we have we don't have anything in common.
I actually have a story about that. So when I was in the auto industry, I used to, people would be in my office for an hour, 2 hours. So I needed to make it fun because people hated finance.
Yeah.
So 15 minutes out of the time that they're in my office, we talk about the deal. But the rest, I'm just getting to know the person in front of me. So one question I love to ask married couple that have been married for a long time is, what's the secret of keeping a marriage happy or long,
Yeah.
And I get answers like communication and all that, and I'm like, this is just boring, because everybody says those things. And I'm like, you can communicate, but can you comprehend?
Exactly.
There's a fine line. But I had this 93-year-old man and an 85-year-old woman in deep love with one another. They were holding hands the whole time. She got up to get herself coffee, asked him, sweetie, do you want coffee? Got up, made him coffee first, came back, then went and made herself coffee. Went back to holding hands, very respectful of one another. To the point where I was like, I'm not doing this deal. I need to know how long have you been married? They've been married for 66 years.
Sure.
So what he told me was something that I've been holding since now it's 8 years. It's been 8 years. They met 3 days later at a coffee shop. They sat down together. They're both engineers, by the way.
Yep.
So they sat down together, and he asked her to marry him at a coffee shop. And they made a promise to each other that they held dear to their heart ever since. And the promise was that he's never going to get to know her, and she's never going to get to know him fully. Okay? Because people change. Who you are today is not who you were a year ago.
100%.
So what they promised each other, that they were going to change in a direction where they adapt to each other's change in a balanced way. Because sometimes she's going to have to adapt more to his change than he has to. and other times vice versa. So ever since I heard that, I was like, this is genius.
100%.
It's true. A lot of people are like 7 years dating, they're not married. I'm like, why? Oh, we're trying to get to know each other. You're never going to get to know that person. That person is going to change constantly. If you want to be with someone, be with someone. If you don't, if you have questions, and another thing that one of my friend told me is that the buts later on become the why. So if you like someone, 97% is perfect, but there's that one thing about them that you're not sure about. That one thing later on in life becomes the 97%, because your focus is solely on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I understand. So if my ex-wife, she's beautiful, she's fun, she's engaging, she's an amazing dancer, she's successful, but we have to go to a damn wedding every single weekend because she's been a maid of honor 16 times, and of those she was.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying?
What is their fun?
And so then the why. Now I'm thinking, right? Fast forward all these years, she always prioritized her friendships even over our relationship, right? Because that's just who she is as a person, right? And so then I felt like I wasn't getting enough attention. I wasn't getting enough affection. She was still accommodating other people because that's her personality type. Yeah. And so the but became the why.
The why, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very true.
All right, I'm just going to cry uncontrollably.
Don't do that.
I'm joking.
It's okay.
So looking ahead, what kind of legacy do you aspire to leave through your business and personal endeavors?
In my personal life, I want to leave a positive impact in anyone's life that I enter or leave. I don't want to leave anyone's life with them saying, this person made me or hurt me or made me feel bad, because I am an acts of service type of person. I'm a caregiver. I love to care for people. I love to take care of people. So the things like that break my heart. Like even though I seem like a very strong woman, but I'm a softie when it comes to that. So I don't ever want anyone to have anything or feel anything bad from me. That's from my personal life. I love to cater to people. I love to host. I love to make people laugh and smile and feel good. And that's something that I'll always value, because I know what it feels to have the opposite, So I don't want anybody to feel the type of pain that I've ever felt. In my professional life, I do want to see legacy in every state. We're right now in Arizona, Tennessee, and Louisiana, and California, actually. So I want to be able to open an office in every single state and see it grow and see people's life change. I see my first agent just recently bought a house, and I was so happy because it's like your children,
Oh yeah.
Even though he's older than me, but you feel like and it adds more pressure on you as an entrepreneur or somebody that has some sort of influence. Is that I feel like now I'm more responsible, because if he fails, then I failed him. It's not because of anything else, because he's great. But I love seeing people's life transform from not having something and seeing how legacy gave them an opportunity to be someone. And they really took it. They really took that opportunity. They put into work, because I can provide you all the resources, but if you don't have the drive, the hunger, there's nothing I could do. I can't train drive and hunger. So having all these resources and seeing people's life change, I think that now is a drive for me. Before, it used to be just me. I wanted to excel. I wanted to see myself do well. Yep. But I think I've reached a point where I've seen enough. I've enjoyed enough. Now I want to see other people do well.
Yeah, I think that our executive VP of our legal search group, Christina Lyles, is in that same season of life, to where here she is 3 years in a row as one of the top producers in the entire state of Texas. And this year, I've seen her start to give a lot of her leads to her team because she wants to see them grow. Yeah. And she's perfectly fine maybe taking a big step back on her individual production, right? And then seeing the team grow to not only 4, but maybe to 10, and she gets her executive override. and gets that element of personal satisfaction in
Exactly.
seeing them check boxes and things,
Exactly.
goals that they've got in their life. So what's the most exciting thing that's on the horizon for you in the next 6 months? Are you buying a house? Are you starting a new business? Give me some insight.
I'm actually running for Miss Texas.
Wow.
And, the thought, decision, application, call all happened within 1 hour. I don't know how.
Yeah.
So it was very unexpected. But I'm very, very excited about it. I have no clue what it entails.
Yep.
I've never done a pageant before. But I'm very excited about it. I think that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to.
Awesome.
I'm also looking forward to, my legacy right now is at a point of, we're still growing, but I'm right now, I have to figure out the service side of things, and I have to get a little bit more creative and create something new. And I think within the next 6 months, I'll come up with something.
Yeah.
But to just make it more efficient for our clients and for my team as well. So I'm excited. That's cooking as well. I want to see how far we can go. So there's actually a lot in my life that's going on. It's when you're living it, you don't really feel it. I mean, you don't really see what people or what your future could be. But when I think about it, there's so much to be thankful for, and I think that's something that I'm very.
Well, that's
very
exciting.
about.
So I'll tell you how small the world is. So one of our top producers, his name is Andrew Johnson, and Andrew left today at 11:30 because he's closing on his very first house. He's 27 years old. And his real estate agent is Logan Lester, who's a former Miss Texas.
Nice. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I used to work this how small the world is. I used to work with her father as a finance manager at Southwest Infinity.
Oh my God, the smallest world.
I know.
That's amazing. Well, good. So in closing, selfishly, you said that you like to analyze the behavioral psychology of individuals. Give me a read on me. How am I different than maybe social media portrays me? And then just give me a read on me.
You're actually a lot like Daryl, honestly.
Okay. And you love Daryl, so by rule, you love me. Okay, there we go.
100%. My read so far is that you are very genuine, almost too genuine, that it backfires in your personal life.
Sure.
But that is something, whenever you have a, not just a skill, but a trait, a personal trait about you that helps you excel in a certain aspect of life, it also brings you back in other aspects of life, right? I could tell that you're a good father because of your abandonment issues.
Yeah.
Usually those
all
make
true.
Great parents, which is good for your kids, but also give them a little tough time because you want them to be the parent that you are today. Yeah. You don't want them to take that for granted. Yep. Which my little brothers take that for granted. I'm like their mom. Yeah. So they've got it easy. And I could tell how entitled they are. And I'm like, we need to change that. Yeah. We need to put you more into I need to give you more responsibility. So now we did a rotation. I have 3 younger brothers. I did a rotation where I'll bring one to my house for 2 weeks, one at a time. And I will give him so many things to do in the morning. I would clean
Love
him,
that.
I'll have him clean, do things. And I love Ian, by the way. She's just the purest human being I've ever seen. Like, her heart is just, you can feel she's like an angel. I've never met someone that's so positive, so fast, Like, we connected really fast. And if you're surrounded by, I met you through Ian, actually. If you're surrounded by people like that, then that says a lot about you. Your circle does say a lot about you, actually. So, that's my read.
Well, excellent. Well, I'll take all that as positive, and then offline we'll talk about maybe the things that I should improve to maybe not be too genuine in my personal life, because it can come back to bite you.
You don't have to be deceiving, though. So, don't take that the other way.
Yeah.
Just be, less is more.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer in that. I'm actually learning that. I have one of my best friends always tells me, he's like, Hanin, you overshare when you're in a relationship.
Yep.
Like, In my professional life, I'm quiet.
Yep.
Nobody knows anything. I'm just, there for the ride. I'm always fun to be around. That's about it. But I don't have conversations with people.
Yeah.
But in my personal life, I overshare.
There we go.
If it's my relationship, I'm like, but now I'm learning not to because it always backfires. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? You don't deserve to know that.
Absolutely. Well, good. Well, it's been an absolute excitement of the last 90 minutes. And I'm very grateful that you've given me the opportunity to get to know you on a much more personal level. And hopefully our listeners today learned something about hearing about your path to success.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I definitely enjoyed this.
Awesome. Thank you.